Hey everyone, Chad J. Willett, the host of the TV show Smash the Box. And this show, as you know, is I invite creative leaders like my friend to the left of me on the screen, Mr. Scott Shelton, on here who disrupt their industries through their mindsets and execution. Those are the two most important things we're focusing on, the mindsets they develop and what they do to execute, put those ideas into action. And Mr. Scott Shelton, Scotty Boombox, as I like to tell him, he, for those who don't know, was opening for Hugh Jackman last October at the Shot,
Yep.
downtown
Yep.
Columbus, Ohio, in front of 14,000 people, which is pretty impressive. And for the viewers out there, you know this is all about creative leaders, leaders disrupting their industries. And I'm just really thrilled to have Scotty on here because he has the musician background, plus he works in corporate America. He's at Cyanna Education Center. He's a media manager, so he's kind of doing both. And we're going to parlay and pick his brain on how the music translates into corporate America. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Saw your first couple episodes. I thought, man, I hope he gives me the call. So when you did, I knew what you were calling about, and I was ready to say yes before we finished asking. So
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you being on. And you know, Scott, we'll jump into it. As I always say, we got 15 minutes, so we'll just
yeah,
jump in. Um, let's talk about your journey as a musician. You know, I have an acting background. I'm just very intrigued with the whole musician background and something you talked about yesterday. I know you've done years and years of traveling. You've done a lot of gigs. And something when you and I talked yesterday that I'd like to bring up to the listeners right away is you talked about musicians see things in a linear fashion. It really intrigued me. Can you explain that, the linear fashion and how musicians see things?
yeah. I mean, and I hesitate to say that all musicians kind of see this way, but to me, seeing things in a linear fashion means seeing things on a timeline. Seeing things as a block of time, a sheet of music. When you're editing when you're editing a video, it's a block of time, and that time and how you address things in your timeline affects outcomes. So like in a piece of music, you want to hook people right out of the gate. You want to, or you can add, you control your audience right out of the gate. And so, then where you take that audience in time is, that's the power of film. That's the power of a great song. But that translates into a lot of different areas. So, whether it's cultural change, whether it's, goals for your organization, seeing things in time means where are you starting and where are you going and how are you going to get there and what's it going to look like and sound like along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me of storytelling. Am I on the right track there, Scotty? When you were
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
like linear and kind of how you tell a story from start to finish?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, in music, just like in in storytelling, you can, draw upon many things. You can elicit different types of emotions, all through sounds and messaging and, just a lot of ins and outs, that can control your audience, and that audience can really be, just a lot of different people.
Is it, Scotty? We're just talking. We're kind of riffing here as we go live, right? But it hits me when you're, a media manager, let's say, in your role now. Do you use the storytelling kind of with your team, or I know you do a lot of productions. I'm sure you're always storyboarding, kind of using that, obviously, in both roles, both as a musician and a manager.
Well, yeah, I think you said it exactly right. There are two ways, right? One, being a musician translated well into me going into film and production, right? On just a number of very obvious ways. But as a manager, whether I have 50, a staff of 50 or a staff of 10, there's just, that storytelling and, how you get from A to B. um, it's there's just a lot of like stunning similarities there where you can, drive your audience via film. But if you think of your staff as your audience, right? And the people that work not only alongside of you or maybe under you, but those that you have to kind of like, that you have to like, manage up to, taking them on that story, showing them why you're doing things, how this is going to work, hooking them in the beginning to make them want to listen to your whole song, to want to go through that cultural change with you, to want to stay a viewer. Because, I mean, it's 2020, you've got options. People are short attention span theater. It's almost like a pitch, your small business pitch is a lot like the start of a good song or a good video.
I think you hit on something very important there, Scott, about creative leaders. Yeah, they're great storytellers, especially in work in America. And you and I know, yeah, if we want our employees to buy our vision, right, to buy our mission statement, to buy into the branding, you and I know you have to some degree, whether you're in insurance, sales, education, right, you have to get your team to buy into the story, whatever story or stories we're telling. It's a very, very important point.
Yeah, so we do that at Cyanna for clients, but also for ourselves. So we are currently working our mission and vision and values. And that doesn't sound all that exciting all the time to like a musician or an artist. You're like, oh, it's corporate 101 speaker, da, da, da. But what has worked at Cyanna Education Services is there's buy-in. We're all writing this song. You're not having to march to someone else's song. You're getting to sort of contribute, share openly. And when you get that type of buy-in from your employees, it can be a really powerful thing. You're invested in what you are doing, and this timeline, this path, and you're more liable to, or you're more likely to, stay on that path with us.
Perfect. That leads me to the preparation, under prepared preparation. And let me just frame this up for you, Scott. I was telling you earlier in the week, I was talking to a company, we were doing a WebEx call, and I was very honest with them. I was like, as an actor, it takes a tremendous amount of preparation to play a role, like doing the physical part of the character, the mental part of the character, the emotional work, right? I mean, it takes, actors that do very, very well, could take months and months to prepare for that role. And my clients in corporate America were very surprised at that. They thought it was more a God-given talent, which I understand, and you kind of wing it, and it's something inherent in someone. And I love what you were saying. Can you talk about preparation and being underprepared on the other side as a musician, right? You don't just show up, in front of 14,000 people nationwide. You're putting in the work.
Right. Well, I'm certainly not going to be the first person to, say how important preparation is, but I think there's a moment where I think I've experienced in myself, and I've heard from others that I work closely with, that there's that moment where you're living in the moment that you prepared for, and you can see the value to yourself, and it becomes very empowering. Like when you feel yourself delivering in the way that you prepared for, and you're seeing that your preparation is paying off, it just feeds you. It's like you feel so much stronger in whatever you are doing.
Scotty,
So
what is,
so
you can't unring the bell? What does that mean?
well, right. So this is one of my favorite things. Like, there's, hindsight is, 2020. You can't unring the bell. It means, you only get one shot at many different types of performances, whether it's music or acting, or whether you have a team meeting. You got everyone's attention, right? And if you're underprepared, that's something that you can realize inside of yourself, that, this is not going well. I under prepared for this. I think all of us have been there. Not everyone, is constantly prepared. We've had to kind of wing it, think on our feet, which is good for you, right? You have to improv. You can't always just prepare for everything. But when there's those moments that you can kind of realize that you under prepared, when you're really looking at who you are and what you are doing, you can't unring the bell. Like that's that moment, right?
That is. I'm going to name this episode "Can't Unring the Bell."
I love it. I love it.
I love it, man, dude. And Scotty, it's such a powerful statement. And again, I think about the creative leaders watching this show. You know, it's a business show for the most part. You know, business men and women, professionals. And I think you hit again a really important point. Whether you're going in for a job interview, whether you're in a meeting, whatever it is, you cannot unring that moment. Once that bell rings, you walk through that door. You're right. Whether you're on a stage, whether you're on the screen, whatever it is, right? You're right. You only have that moment. It's such a powerful. You can't unring the bell. And you're right. And it's all the work that leads up to it. And that leads me, I want to keep on this topic, Scotty, but something you said, I'd love for you to share with the audience. You know, when you were in front of 14,000 at the shot, opening for Hugh Jackman, right? And you're talking about this yesterday. Can you share with the audience, like you and it ties into your preparation. You say there's some moment, right, where you're up there and they're looking out at the audience and they're grooving and they're dancing, right? And they feel it. They feel the connection, right? And I just wrote down, you experience the moment. You know all your work paid off. You know you put it in the preparation. You let it fly, right? And you just nailed it and connect with the audience. Like, what's that like? Like, I've never been on a stage like I've been on an acting stage. I've had my moments up there, but I think it's probably different for you. I mean, can you kind of share that story or paint that picture, like what that's like to know all your preparation just came together?
Right. Well, I think there's those moments of sort of standard success where you prepare for A and you hit A, right? And you're like, great, yep, that was my goal. But moments like my Hugh Jackman show was where I was in a situation where I was on a stage that was far out in front of the normal, pit stage where there's all the videos. So I'm in the middle of the arena, and the sound is so bad, like the timing is off. There's like a 2.5 second delay. There's like a warble, and I'm all ears, and all I could think is, this is not going to work. The fear starts to kind of set in, and then I can't tell as a DJ if my mixes are on time because there's just this warble in time, and you start to kind of panic. And then you're out there. You're literally on an island alone for 14,000 people thinking, I don't know if this is good. I don't know, like my wife is here, my mother is here. I mean, this is a big gig, right? And so, but then I'm able to dial back and go, you know what? I've overly prepared for this gig so much. And now I know my set without hearing it. And I had to go to that place. I'd really focus on what I prepared. And then, so that gig was awesome for a number of reasons, just, and I'm super grateful for it. But in regards to preparation, if I had under prepared for that, that would have been one that really stuck with me. And like, because as like a true, almost like a failure, right? And I don't like to use that word a lot, but my preparation allowed me to deliver. And then, after I got kind of like my sea legs, right? I think you've been out there on a stage where it's kind of like you're feeling it out as an actor or a performer or just being in front of anyone. And you're like, and then you settle in. And then as I settled in, it was because I was ready and I trusted myself. And then I was able to connect with people. And then, people loved it. And, it was a great show. But I worked hard, out of, fear of failure or, all these things that just kind of drive us. And it paid off.
That's so interesting, Scott. That segue me to kind of the last question, and then you get to do some improv, which I know you're ready.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The last question, Scott, you hit on it. And I seem to be bringing this up on every episode. It's the third episode, and it seems to be a recurrent theme is fear. And you and I talked about like the short-term memory, right? Not dwelling on failure. And you said something yesterday that I loved it. Not only you can't unring the bell, your rule of thirds. Can you explain your rule of thirds to the audience? Again, we talk mindsets on this show. It's already stuck with me a little bit as I took a walk yesterday. Can you explain the rule of thirds?
Yeah. And how I'm going to get there is like this. We talk about fear and we talk about what we are afraid of. And oftentimes it's what other people think, right? And that the perception of my performance, the perception of who I am or how I'm handling something or my job or whatever drives me to act differently or to focus on the things that are not important or the things that I cannot control, right? Yeah. And that brings fear a lot. And so a guy that I used to, we used to tour for, I think, 7 years. We made music for a long time. And he said it best. And he said, because I used to worry about, I wasted so much time in my 20s worried about what other people thought. And he said it simply. He said, Scott, it's a rule of thirds. He said, a third of these people are going to love what you do. A third of these people are going to hate what you do. And a third of these people do not care whatsoever. So I used to say, so when I would have one person come up and, say, that was the best thing ever, and then the same show, people come up and be like, they're kind of like, whatever. Well, you have to remember that like these people just fall into a bucket of just a spectrum of just general reaction, right? And so it's sort of free. It is liberating from that fear, right?
And Scotty, the last thing, man, because I know people ask me this after my keynotes, and I don't have an answer for it. How do you not care? Not caring how others perceive you. I mean, it goes back to mindset, and I struggle with it too. Yeah, and I understand the rule of third. Is it that just keeping the thirds in mind? Like we can never please everyone, never. You and I know this show right here. Not everyone's going to love it. It's going to be your thirds. It's so applicable. A third won't even watch it. A third won't like it, and a third will love it. It's your.
Yeah.
Is it just that? Just knowing that
Yeah,
you would never ever.
I now go into most things thinking someone's not going to like this. And it's not really about me. It's not about my preparation. It's not about my talent level. It's not about what I produced. It's often just times a matter of taste, perception, all these other things. And when you can remember that when you step into any setting, it doesn't matter if you're on stage at the Schottenstein Center with 14,000 people, or you're designing, a video for, a gravel trucking industry, like it, in everything in between, you're going to present something and someone's not going to like it. Someone's going to be ho-hum and someone's going to be like, this is great. And if you can remember that and not put, all your eggs into one basket, or, think that this one person's opinion is the be all, perception of my work, it's liberating, if you can think, because you don't have to, it is such, I don't know. My mom used to say,
I talk about power. I say it's not giving them all the power.
Yeah. And it frees yourself not only from the power of others, but from what can happen within yourself. Like my mother used to say, there's nothing better. The best part about being a creative is the crippling self-doubt. And it's satire. It's, but it's like, that's what we do as creative people. Sometimes we're constantly worried because we are making things for an audience all the time. But that idea of your audience is applicable to your customers, your clients, your coworkers, your friends, your family. I mean, a lot of people around you, if you can like liberate yourself from that built-in fear of I'm worried about what other people think that I'm doing, it allows you to focus on what's important, and you have more time to accomplish your goals.
I love it. That's great stuff. Scotty, let's end this episode with the quote. You know it's coming. You don't know what it is, but
I don't know what it is, no, but all right. Hit me.
All right. For the audience out there, this is the improv section of Smash the Box. I put my guests on the hot spot. They get 30 seconds to riff. And I give them a quote, related to their industry. Obviously with Scotty, I have a famous DJ, Armin van Buuren. And here's the quote.
Yeah.
Don't be a prisoner of your own style. Let me repeat that as you kind of think about it. Don't be a prisoner of your own style. And I was thinking everything we're talking about today, right? Linear, preparation, not dwelling on the past, fear. I just thought this really hit me. Don't be a prisoner of your own style. Scotty, you got 30 seconds, let it rip.
Wow. Don't be a prisoner of your own style, Armin van Buuren. I like the idea that you can be multifaceted. I think, Chad, you're a great example of it. You've taken acting, and you have gotten outside the box, smashed the box, and applied those transitional skills almost to other aspects, and that's diversifying your skill set. So from Armin van Buuren's standpoint, right, you can be a really good hip hop DJ one night, and the next night be a really good funk DJ, or a really good, like a disco DJ. You could, when you start to think of yourself as just one thing, right? If I was just a good producer, if I was just a good, if I was just a good voice actor, if I was just whatever, you pigeonhole yourself into a smaller set of opportunities. And if you can open your mind up and think, no, 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 I can do more. I'm not just this one thing. Or I can take what I am good at and apply it to other things. That really sets the stage for you to be happy in multi, many different aspects of your life.
Awesome. Well, we'll end it there. Scotty, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. It was so fun.